If we had a pound for every time someone said to us, I don't have time to declutter, Leslie and I would be two very rich professional organizers. Having said that, time is a very precious commodity and needs to be used wisely. Today, we're going to unpick where time fits into your decluttering journey.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more, or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Well, hello, Leslie. There we are yet again with a brand new podcast episode, and it's going to be an interesting one. But before we dive in, we wanted to talk about a review, or well, lots of reviews that we've been getting and comments, right?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to do a big shout out to Elisa. I hope that's how you say your name, Elisa. I think it's got an S, so I think it's Elisa and not Eliza. But either way, you know who you are, and you have been absolutely binging all of our podcasts on YouTube. So just in case anybody didn't know, you can also watch our podcasts on YouTube if you want to see two sometimes friendly faces. But Elisa has been watching them all and commenting on most of the podcasts that we've done as she's been going through them. So I've been seeing her podcast binging journey and replying to her comments as she goes through. So thank you, Elisa, for watching us on YouTube, and thank you for all your very kind and insightful comments on it. It's always nice to hear from you. We love comments. Give us a comment because we like to know whether these podcasts hit the spot.
I know. One of the things she said was, this is the best decluttering and organizing advice available. How nice is that? I mean, we do try really hard, don't we, Leslie? Let's be honest.
We try very hard, but it's nice to hear it, right?
Yeah,
so thank you so much, Elisa. We really, really appreciate you listening. And of course, we appreciate everybody else listening in every week as well.
Yeah.
That's what makes us tick, right?
Tick. What a perfect hook into the time element we're going to talk about today, Leslie. It makes us tick. And yes, the time ticks away. So let's get started with this podcast. So I think we all wish we would have like 60 hours in a day, right, Leslie? There never seems enough time, right?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think a few like celebrities and stuff, I mean, it's not just celebrities, but I'm aware of a few celebrities that have discussed the idea that everyone has got the same 24 hours in a day. You know, it's quite a contentious statement, isn't it? Because different people have got different pulls on their time. And so I guess the sentiment that sits behind that is you can choose what you want to spend your time on during those 24 hours and allocate your priorities. But some people have got it tougher than others, right, Ingrid?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the celebrities saying we all have the same time. And I'm like, yeah, but you've got like cleaners and gardeners and pool people and car people and babysit people and hair people and makeup people. I mean, yeah, it's like,
I mean, it's not all, I mean, for the avoidance of doubt, it's not all celebrities. I think Beyonce said it. And then I think there was a very contentious one where Molly May from Love Island said it and got completely annihilated for it. So there's just a couple of things. So it's a contentious statement. So I understand the sentiment that sits behind it, in that we are the guardians of our time. And in principle, we choose how we spend that time. But equally, we have to accept that some people have got to put food on the table, pay a mortgage, care for people. Time is taken away from them for all kinds of things, mental health issues, physical health issues. And so it's not as simple as that. And that's what
Yeah.
we're going to unpick a little bit today
Yeah.
is what do we do with that lovely 24 hours a day of time that we have? And how does decluttering fit into that journey?
Exactly. I think that's where the crux is, isn't it, Leslie? Of course, because we are a decluttering and organizing podcast with all these pools on our time, and we all have them. I mean, Leslie and I might love decluttering a lot and make time for it, but we also have jobs and houses and families and things we need to do and people to take care of. But, you know, we find that decluttering is a priority in our lives because we know how much it brings us, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, back in the day when I was maybe not quite as many pulls on my time now, I used to spend more time decluttering than I do now, I guess.
Yeah.
Now I don't spend as much time as I would like on decluttering.
Yeah.
But I'm making an assessment on that because it's actually not that bad. And it's more kind of a fun thing to do rather than a necessity. It's a kind of nice to have rather than a need to have where I sit in my decluttering journey, because actually I'm only fine tuning it. So it's okay without it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of an interesting one, isn't it? But we've all got those same, and it ebbs and flows right through life. Like you can have a lot of time at certain times of your life, and then you have a really, really busy couple of weeks and stuff like that. So I think it's really interesting. But what we wanted to talk about is, in the context of a decluttering journey, you do have to choose to make time for it. So the time is not miraculously we're not sitting there twiddling our thumbs going, what can I do today? I think I'll do some decluttering. Well, maybe, but it's a rarity, right?
Yeah.
You've got to make time for it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that is something that a lot of people, because maybe they feel overwhelmed by the clutter and they feel overwhelmed by the task at hand, it gets be put bottom of the list, like all the time. There's so many other things to do. Decluttering is, we'll just do it another time. But I think when the overwhelm gets too much, and when you just kind of look around your house one day and go, oh, wow, what happened here? Or, oh, my word, it is really gotten out of hand this time. And a lot of people are just about managing to keep it all just about ticking over. But then stuff happens. Life events happen. Bereavements happen, sometimes multiple in a row. Lots of stuff happens with people, and then it falls back so far that one day you wake up and you're like, look around in a panic. And then it's like, where do I even start? And the overwhelm kicks in. And then it's like, well, I don't know. And I'm just going to kind of keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm not going to allocate time to it. But that's the thing you actually really need to do, right? You need to actually look at your diary and go, okay, this house needs attention. I need to either by myself or with my family get this sorted. I want to move to a better place. I'm not feeling happy in my house. How am I going to get there? And that means you're going to have to look at your diary and go, okay, how is this looking here? What am I spending my time on? And when I'm going to allocate some time to start with this decluttering.
I think it's really interesting. So I want to kind of, we're talking about the fact that decluttering falls to the bottom of people's lists, because when we are already kind of overwrought, let's call it, if we're doing the right things for ourselves, we're thinking about self-care. So in the downtimes of when we're not panicked and busy and working and all of those things, all those pulls on our time, we think, well, maybe it's nice to do something nice for ourselves. And we think about self-care. We might think about going out for a walk. We might think about going out for a coffee with a friend and all those kind of things. But one of the things that we have learned over the years is that if you allocate a little bit of time to decluttering, that is also self-care, and it's looking out for yourself first and foremost. So it involves a little bit of effort, but then it brings back in the self-care. And once you get into it, you can really start to enjoy it, can't you? Because it gives you there's a feel-good factor associated with decluttering. So even though it's not your go-to self-care thing, like sitting down, watching a TV program, going out for a walk with a friend, having a glass of wine, going out socially, all of those things. Decluttering, once you get into it and once you start to sort of reap the rewards of it, is a fantastic way to care for yourself, isn't it?
Oh, without a shadow of doubt. And I think that's what we see as well, right? With the people that we have in our challenges, with the people that we have in our membership. If you start to they're like, oh, it's really nice. I feel I'm doing something nice for myself. It doesn't feel like in the beginning, it feels like a chore when you kind of have to get up and muster yourself to do something. But when you've done that one drawer or that one little cupboard or that one little pile of stuff, it feels like, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so happy that I've done it. I found something that I lost and that I didn't know where it was. And now I've saved myself time for later and all of those things. But it feels really, really good.
Exactly. And I think, so ultimately what we're saying is the time is not miraculously going to appear to do decluttering. You have to make a very conscious choice to add this into your list of things that you need to do this week, this month, this year, this decade. sounds a bit depressing, doesn't it, to say decade? But you have to choose it, because it's not going to be, well, if you're struggling with clutter and you haven't got that bit of your life nailed, then it's not going to be something that just appears as part of your routines. It's part of our routines, right? So sometimes, so to me, it is a treat. If I go, oh, I quite like to do that. Let me do that this weekend. And I feel really good when I see all the bags sitting by the front door, ready to go to charity shop. And, it makes me feel really good. But that would be different, because a lot of times the decluttering is actually part of my normal day-to-day resets and routines. And so I don't need to do big projects anymore. So choose time. You have to choose to allocate time to decluttering. If you're waiting for that to miraculously appear, it's not going to happen. So you have to make that decision that becomes a priority. And the reason why it's important to choose the time to decluttering is because ultimately what's going to happen then is that all of those other things that you have to do in your life are going to get less. The cleaning time is going to get less. The time that you need to spend looking for things that you can't find is going to get less, or going to be eradicated completely, hopefully. So you are then going to regain time because you have spent some time decluttering. So you invest in time to reap the rewards of that time long term, aren't you?
But not only to reap the rewards, you get double time back almost, right? Yeah. So yes, what we see all the time is that people who dedicate some time to decluttering, it's not only the fact that they can find their stuff easier, it's the fact that they don't have to search for it, can't find it, have to go to the shops to buy it again, then to get, it's like almost like the time doubles. It's really, it's hard to explain, isn't it, Leslie? But I think when you are in control and you know where everything is, you also then become more realistic of everything you have, so you don't have to go out to buy even more. Because that mindset shift happens as well when you're decluttering. That's why we do a lot of times, we ask people to count stuff. When we do masterclasses or challenges, we say, count how many you have. And so many people always go like, oh, wow, I had no idea how many I had. And it kind of wakes people up to the volumes, which can be really helpful to go, actually, I have so much. I don't need to go out and buy more. So you kind of save time there as well.
And the time saving is immense. But I think so many people come into our world who all that clutter has done is zap their time and take time. And so what we're talking about is you have to completely reframe that thinking into focusing on gaining time rather than focusing on the time it's going to take you to declutter. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Do you know what I mean? When people come into our world and want to embark on a strategic, structured decluttering process, it takes time. And you can choose how you want to allocate that time. You can choose whether you want to do 5 minutes, 5 hours, or 5 days in a week. That's entirely up to you. So you can choose the amount of time that you want to allocate to decluttering. And consequently, depending on the stuff that you've got in your house, that decluttering journey is going to take longer if you allocate less time. But it might be and we sit firmly behind this, is finding what that right amount of time is for you based on your schedule, based on the other pools of your time. You have to do something that is sensible for you. There's no point in, going out to work for 40 hours a week, doing 2 hours commuting, having to put your kids to bed when you get home, and doing, dinner and all that kind of stuff, and bath time and all that kind of stuff. And then thinking that you can do a decluttering project after that. It's not going to work. So you have to find a way to blend it and go, right, okay, can't do that. So what can I do? I've got 3 hours on a Saturday morning that I can that I can find in my week, and I can ask my friend to look after my kids, or, you know, send my partner out with them or whatever, or send them to a play date. Whatever, you're going to have to make plans around this. If you're scheduled up to the hilt, and go 3 hours a week is sensible. And don't be disappointed if you can't do more than 3 hours a week, but really try and make that 3 hours a week happen. That's what it, you know, because on the face of it, I've not got time to do any decluttering because I've got a really busy week and pulls on my time and time scheduled in and social time. I'm choosing to do those things. That's what I'm choosing to do with my free time. And if you really, really want to regain that time, you've got to choose to forfeit something else in your life to focus on this, which is your decluttering journey. And any kind of transformational thing that you go through, you have to give it an appropriate amount of time for it to work. Yeah. And that's one of the things, we see it so often, don't we, Ingrid? And we try and change it because people are like, I haven't got time, because people build it up into this huge thing that means weeks and weeks and weeks of decluttering. And we're like, take your time, spread it out and do it in a sustainable way. 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, 5 minutes a day, an hour a day, whatever that is. Don't do 5 days on the run. Like, even as professional organisers, when we go to clients who ring us and they want us to help them through that process, I'd love to do it in that week. Can you come and do week commencing the 14th of October? And we're like, no, we would never do ever as professional organisers 5 days off the bat, would we? Like, back to back. We wouldn't do that, because even though you've got us doing the lion's share of the kind of practical work for you, you're not going to sustain, you're going to be burnt out after it. You're going to get decision fatigue. You're going to be burnt out. So even when you've got someone, you know, specifically helping you, perhaps paid help or not, then you've still got to allocate a smaller amount of time so that you don't become overwrought and over fatigued.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, you know what, Leslie, like you said, we've all got different pools of our time, but we also have different energy levels as well. So we really need to think about our own lives and our own health and our own energy. How are we going to fit this in? How are we going to, you know, for some people, 5 or 10 minutes is enough. But if you can then maybe do that 2 times a day and maybe just a little bit longer on the weekend, it starts to add up. And you start to see that improvement. We talk a lot about resets in our membership, right? And the members who are doing those resets in the morning, in the evening, and going, I'm going to tidy up my kitchen at the end of the day. I'm just going to fill the dishwasher, wipe my sides. They're like, oh, I really, really see the benefit. Even a couple of days in, just by doing that, they see the benefit of allocating that time to do that and seeing a progress happening. And it doesn't feel massive, but it's like every night before I sit down and before I go to bed, I want to do this because I'm doing my future self a favor here. I know I'm going to wake up happier tomorrow morning when I come down and it looks relatively tidy and don't have to kind of first load a dishwasher before I can make a cup of tea because I've got no cups left to pour myself a cup of tea.
You know, it's interesting because my son's recently gone back to university, and students are classic examples of this, aren't they? They will literally, they've got loads of plates. Basically, the way that it works, if anybody hasn't had a student or whatever, all the students, there might be 5 people in the house, all of those bring loads of crockery, loads of forks and knives and cups and glasses. There's like an abundance of stuff. And so then they just keep on making food and using it up until all of the crockery is gone and the plates and the cups and everything. And only when it's all gone do they go, oh, we actually need to wash up. And then it's all hands on deck, 5 people, 2 hours, have to do a full-blown thing, and then it becomes this massive thing again. And so what people are thinking about is the effort it takes to wash up 60 plates and 60 knives and forks. Does that make sense? Rather than just do 1 plate and 1 cup and 1 knife and fork after you've made your dinner and maybe a pan. Do you know what I mean? Which is not a big deal. And so by breaking it down, it definitely saves lots of time. And I think it's that psychological feeling of what that represents. You know, if your kitchen is very cluttered, your work surfaces are cluttered, you've not got to that stage where you have decluttered, then a reset is going to take you a lot longer, and so you're going to dread it, so consequently you're not going to do it. So you've got to put the time in doing the decluttering projects to fix your kitchen a little bit, so then the resets become non-negotiable and you spend 10 or 15 minutes a day doing them and they become habit. And it breaks it down, and then it doesn't impact on your day because it's just part of what you do. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. What also really, I think, helps, Leslie, when allocating the time, can you do a little bit often, right? Can you maybe stack a habit when you're cooking dinner, when your potatoes are boiling? Can you already unload the dishwasher or load the dishwasher or tidy up? Can you maybe immediately after breakfast, before you walk off to do something else, first go, I'm going to put away the breakfast dishes. I'm going to put away the cereal back in the cupboard before I do that. And when I boil the kettle to make myself a cup of tea, can I quickly wipe the sides from my table? Just so you get ahead of yourself just a tiny little bit, because all these little bits throughout the day really help for resets not to become this 2-hour ordeal, because that's not what we want. We want resets to be easy for you. But of course, again, you have to allocate a bit of time to go through those kitchen cupboards, clear some stuff out, one cupboard at a time, and then go, I now understand what Leslie and Ingrid are talking about. It does get easier.
It all boils down to, what do you want, the stuff or the time, doesn't it, Ingrid? It's really important to kind of frame it in that way and think about it. What's more important to you? You know, we all want more time. If we put questions in our Facebook every now and again, ask things. And one of the things, what would you want more of? And it's never stuff, it's always time. That's what people want more of, because it kind of feels like it's like slipping away from us. And so important. So we're going to go for a little break now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about timers and timing and right times and loads of things to do with time, right, Ingrid?
Yes, I love it. See you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are talking about the one thing that just takes away all the time, and that is time. And how to use it wisely, and how we have to allocate time to decluttering to create time. I know.
Did that make any sense?
I hope so.
There's just a lot of time and ticks. And I was like, I don't know whether I'm following you here, but I hear you, because we've got a sixth sense together. But I'm like, yeah, does that actually make any sense? I don't know. But there's plenty of things that I say that don't make any sense as well. So I want to talk about the right time. This is another thing. So a lot of people say, I haven't got the time. And then a lot of people wait for the right time.
Yeah.
Waiting for the right time to declutter. This is not a good week because of this. Yeah, I can't do it this week because of this. And so they're waiting for the right time to declutter.
Yeah.
What do we think about that, Ingrid?
It's like, it's a bit like, one day I'm going to do this. Or one day it's going to come in handy. And it's like, but one day is not a day of the week, the month, or the year. I think it's just a delay tactic. That's not really, you're not getting anywhere, you know?
Yeah. So if you spend time doing what we were talking about before the break, and you break it down into small, manageable chunks, then you can get started today. I think the one thing that we want to say, really, because we get really, there's a lot of things that we find quite frustrating, right? I feel like that's coming across, Ingrid, right? Is it coming across? Because we see people stalled and stuck for sometimes months, if not years, waiting for the right time, saying they've not got time. And all we're saying is, you've not got hours and hours of time or days and days of time, but you do have time. You do have small chunks of time, whether that is while the kettle is boiling or 10 minutes after you've had dinner. Of course, you might be like, the last thing I want to do is spend 10 minutes tidying up and washing up and all that. Of course, but if you find the time, 10 minutes at a time, it's going to save you a job. And honestly, it becomes then a little bit infectious. So when we break it down to something that is small and manageable, not overwhelming, it becomes infectious. And sometimes you will do just that little bit more. So you might wipe your work surfaces down and think, oh, do you know, I've just seen that cutlery drawer, and let me just kind of like hoover out some of the crumbs out of that cutlery drawer while I'm at it, that kind of thing. And so there is no right time to embark on a decluttering journey, honestly. Well, there are many right times. There are many times that are better than others that make sense, right? Of course, around you're like, now's the time, got the time, can devote to this, completely committed. Get that completely. Yeah. But ultimately, if that time's not coming and it's not in your future in the next couple of months, couple of years, then there's no point in waiting, because the time that you need to do that is now. That is having an impact on you every single day. And so what we want is for you to not wait until a year down the line and struggle for a whole nother year, but to start to make small impacts on your clutter immediately. That's what it's all about. So Don't wait for the right time.
Yeah. You just said, Leslie, the time is now. And I was singing in my head, the time is now.
Oh, yeah, it's Ingrid's favourite song.
I know.
Is that Moloko?
Yeah, it's Moloko. It's Moloko.
Go on, sing for us. No, but I'm not singing for a while on the podcast.
I can't remember, but it's like, the time is now. I just love that in there. I don't know. But if you want to hear this song, we have a playlist.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're like,
Is it on the playlist?
Yes.
Oh, is that?
I think it's actually the first song I suggested for our playlist on Spotify.
Yeah. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, we've got a playlist. If you want to be inspired by decluttering tunes, go for it.
Yeah.
It is in our resources section, right?
Yes, indeed, Leslie. We've got it on a playlist. And you can find it on declutterhub.com under our free resources.
Yes, it's a nice playlist. If you want kind of old decluttering kind of
inspiration.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was put together by you guys. I mean, we put a couple of bits on there as well, didn't we? Yeah. But Moloko, because it's Ingrid's favourite song, obviously went on there for her. But lots of it were ideas from you. So yes, we digress, Ingrid. But yes. Little sing-song, little Moloko, little digression to the playlist. What were we actually talking about? Can you remind me?
Yeah, we were talking about the right time to declutter. And now is the time is now. Now is the right time to declutter. Stop putting it off. Just do a tiny little bit. I think people always get carried away and they do far too much. Just do one little thing, one tiny thing. If you see something that's in the wrong place, put it in the right place.
Do you know what, Ingrid? I feel like today the mean decluttering ladies have come back out to play. Don't you think? We're like getting a little bit like, ooh. Yeah, exactly. So anybody who's not been listening to us for a while, every now and again, we're quite nice people generally and quite calm, but sometimes we turn into the mean decluttering ladies and we go, and the tough love comes out and it's quite tough. I feel like today's one of those days, right?
Well, let's just move on then, Leslie.
Ingrid don't like being a mean decluttering lady.
I know. I just want to be the nice one all the time.
Oh, so it's me then? Is that what you're saying? The mean decluttering lady and Ingrid. Is that what it is?
I don't know. Leslie, I'm opening a whole can of worms here. I feel it.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about how do you deal with time? So the time is now. You're like, okay, girls, I hear you. The time is now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to break it down into manageable chunks. How do I deal with the time itself using timers?
I think, Leslie, what's very important with understanding time is that you need to have time visible, right? And I think what can really help is having a clock on your wall or putting a timer on your phone, just 10 minutes, either counting down or just turning your phone on and putting the timer on, or, or using your kitchen egg. That's a timer for your oven. You know what I mean? You can use anything really, but I think a lot of us lose track of time. We used to have always watches where we could see the time, but now often there are smart watches where that counts all kinds of things, but we don't see the time slip away anymore. And I think having a grasp of time is really important and understanding how long something takes. We do a lot of find out how long it takes you to make your bed, or unload your dishwasher, or load your dishwasher, or wipe the kitchen side. How long does it take you? How long does it take you to gather a round of washing together, put it in the washing machine and putting it on? And then how long does it take you to hang it up? And how long does it take you to fold it? If you have a better understanding of time, it will then also get easier to look at your diary and your calendar and go, aha, but I need that time here. I need these blocks to do these chores, because nobody has a secret fairy in their house doing stuff. It's us, right? Maybe by yourself or with your family, get other people involved. But in the end, we have to do that.
Yeah, so there's two things that are really important in what you just said there, Ingrid. So one is the understanding of time itself and how much time those chores take. And that's a really, really impactful, insightful thing to do. So little bits and pieces, Ingrid said, just work it out. And then you go, actually, in my head, I thought it was an hour and a half. And actually, it's 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think over time, you get like a sixth sense of what that feels like. So I know what time I get up and how long it's going to be before I've done all of the things that I do every day before I'm downstairs having my breakfast. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of have a sixth sense about that now because it's become habit for me over the years. But I think using timers, we talk quite a lot, I've had a lot of people on the podcast talking about ADHD and how that affects people, particularly the passage of time, which is a big problem for people with ADHD. And one of the big things is always to have an analog clock rather than a digital clock where you can see the kind of the minute hand ticking around. So important. We in our membership, we have success sessions and people come and work alongside each other on the Zoom, obviously, for an hour. So it's 5 minutes before to talk about what they're going to do, 5 minutes at the end to talk about what they've done, and 50 minutes in the middle. And there is a timer going around for that whole 50 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very powerful for people. I think it's also very, we talk about ADHD there, hyper focus is a big part of ADHD where you get lost in the moment. And then all of a sudden you thought you allocated 35 minutes to something and then 2.5 hours have gone by. And so using a timer can help you in that way as well, can't it? If you become hyper-focused and lose track of time. So there's so many tools that it's useful to be aware of, but you need to kind of arm yourself with that information before you embark on doing this. So think about getting a timer, think about getting an analog clock, think about timing yourself so you're aware of how long these things take. Yeah. And then you're well set up for success, aren't you?
It makes a massive difference. And I think it's exactly what you say, Leslie. We either overestimate how long something takes, or we completely underestimate how long something takes. And then we try to squeeze a peg in a round hole, and it's not going to work because we're thinking, oh, we can do that in 10 minutes before I go to work. But actually, it takes 20 minutes and not 10 minutes. So then we leave loads of jobs half finished everywhere. And then it feels more chaotic. So timing yourself, especially with those daily things, how long does it take me to walk the dog, feed the cat, take out the recycling, do the dishwasher, all of those things that we kind of want to get done as hopefully daily, because then you will get ahead of yourself a little bit. If you get a grasp of that, it will help you tremendously with your daily resets, your weekly resets, and then as well how to fit decluttering around that.
Definitely. So, yes.
I hope it was really helpful that we really did a deep dive in this topic because it's so important. And I hope that, we've given so many suggestions in this podcast of all the things you can do, and I hope that, habit stack. Look at your diary, break it down, get a timer, put a timer on to figure out how long something takes. All of those things. There's many things in here that can hopefully help you. So let us know how much time is sensible on a small decluttering project. What works for you? We would love to know in the comments. So go to declutterhub.com/265. Or if you're Elisa, go to YouTube and tell us in the comments there.
Yes. Or anybody else.
Yes.
So Elisa will definitely be there, right?
Yes. We'd love to know if you've ever considered any of the things we've been speaking about today. Tell us. We keep us posted. So thanks so much everyone for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.